Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today with a very special Cyberpunk 2077 video. Today we are rounding up everything we know so far about Cyberpunk 2077 in 2020. We are preparing for the Night City Wire, which was delayed for all the right reasons, and I will have some GoFundMes as well as charities linked in the description down below. Go down there, participate. With that said, Night City Wire has been pushed back to June 25th. Maybe you're just hopping on the Cyberpunk train, or perhaps you want to catch up because there's been a lot of information coming out. This video is for you, so get comfortable. There's going to be a lot of information vomited your way, and let's dive into Cyberpunk. Very excited about this one. Let's begin with a list of all the things found by a Redditor within a German podcast featuring the developers of Cyberpunk 2077. And there is a lot to comb through here. Developers said that the improvements in the level design are as big as they were from The Witcher 2 to The Witcher 3. Now, I love The Witcher 2, but The Witcher 3 is really what put that series big time on the map and showed substantial improvement as well as modernization. There will be no such thing as the barrels from The Witcher 3 in Cyberpunk with an overwhelming amount of map icons because some players want to complete every single map icon available. Due to the virus, the developers had to work from home, and CD Projekt Red sent over 700 workstations out to the devs around the world with Cyberpunk installed. Therefore, we now know at least 701 people are working on the game, which would explain why it looks as incredible as it does and how CD Projekt Red continues to push that boundary forward. You will have about 3 times that many ways to solve a mission than in The Witcher 3. They thought, quote, "What is the dumbest thing a player could do now? And how is it possible that the mission continues? The only thing stopping it is the player's death." They called an example where you talk to someone, get shot, and instead of firing back, you run away and buy a hamburger. But the mission has to continue. Does this mean that eating is confirmed? I'm not sure. So this right here is a great example of the fun choice and consequence. I put consequence in quotes because I don't know if it's really a consequence to go eat a hamburger. But anyway, it just goes ahead and shows that CD Projekt Red is valuing choice in all areas of the game, and that's something that speaks to a lot of RPG players. They tried to improve this in The Witcher 3's DLC and want to improve it even more in Cyberpunk. Some players said that the missions when using the Witcher site were too similar and not that interesting. That I can agree with. We won't see that again. I assume we will have something similar with our cyberware, but that will be used better for missions. Yeah, so really The Witcher 3 popularized this vision system that we see in a lot of games like Mafia 3, as well as Horizon Zero Dawn. And when I went back to The Witcher 3 when it released on the Switch, as much as I loved the game, some of the mission design did feel repetitive. Not because of the narrative structure, the stories within these side quests are fantastic, but it really did feel like, in a manner of speaking, it always involved using your Witcher senses to track someone down. So I'm happy they are stepping away from that because they could easily include that same type of concept with some form of cyberware. Continuing on with The Witcher 3, while there are some areas in The Witcher 3 where villagers don't have a daily routine, they are planning to improve this with giving more than 1,000 NPCs a handmade routine. So this may not directly impact your gameplay loop by any means, but it brings the world to life. You'll see people maybe going to bars, you'll see them hanging out and chatting with a friend, you'll see them maybe partaking in a sport or cleaning their car. Stuff like that. So it just gives the world personality. That's the attention to detail that I feel becomes a huge difference maker when we get down the stretch. According to a dev working on quest design, they have, quote, "no rules," end quote, about how a quest has to be. The example given is a strange one. Do not let you move more than 1,000 meters. You talk to 2.5 people. Yes, the dev did say 2.5, not 2 to 5. The only rule they have is if it's good, we expand it and implement it, which I like that mindset. Make good stuff. It's that simple, although it's not easy to execute. When they fully finish a quest, they do not put them aside and work on the next. No, they continue playing it over and over again until the game releases because they might find something to fix or improve. That's what they did with The Witcher 3 and what they are doing with Cyberpunk, and The Witcher 3 is a great sample size right there, yet again. We're going to skip the next one because they're just proud that Keanu Reeves wasn't leaked when they had him for the show at E3. Next is a very important one though. The melee fight system shown in the E3 trailer was not nearly where they wanted it to be, so expect some big improvements there. This one I found shocking and is why I decided to focus strictly on 2020 information in this video, because the game looked great back in 2018 and they're claiming that it has improved massively, especially in the melee fight system department since then. And it meant that if that stuff back then changed, then what else changed? So let's just focus on what they're talking about now. Lastly, and most interestingly, inside of the cyberspace, you will be able to summon fantasy RPG-like creatures and warriors who can, for example, burn out another hacker. This here, just what can't this game do on paper, it seems? That is the feeling I'm getting, which can lead to a dangerous amount of hype. But still, man, that was a very, very interesting interview hosted by GameStar with the developers of Cyberpunk 2077, and it brought a lot of information to the table. Continuing on, the recent news is just the tip of an iceberg, which I think will excite people because we're only just now getting to Night City Wire and we already have so much information to play with. In any case, expectations have been heightened by lead designer of the quest, Paul Sasko, whose enthusiasm for Cyberpunk 2077 is infectious. In response to Blizzard Vice President Mike Ibarra expressing some excitement over the aforementioned Night City Wire, Sasko writes, "Each of you waiting for the Cyberpunk game make us even more motivated and hyped to deliver. Recent news is just a tip of an iceberg." So while this is everything that you know so far, there is plenty more on the way that we will cover in a more intermittent fashion as this game reveals more. Next is just how complete Cyberpunk 2077 is. In a call with investors discussing the company's 2019 financial results, Senior Vice President of Business Development Mikhail Nowakowski said that the game is already, quote, in a complete form, end quote. Currently, he said, the studio is using the remaining months to polish Cyberpunk 2077, fix bugs, work on its Day Zero patch, as well as ensure it passes certification. There are some difficulties with the localization process, specifically with recording some of the actors. Nowakowski says most of the studios are closed down right now, at least for the time being. However, we have managed to record the vast majority of the voiceovers, but there are always some last pickup sessions, and we're not very worried about that because that's something we can record even later and add in the form of a digital patch. So by the moment the customers actually buy the game in September, they would just download a file that would add the missing pieces of recordings. It's not something we identified as a major risk, but this is literally the only thing that's on our radar. So I found this more reassuring. Yes, it doesn't have anything to do with the game and what the game is bringing to us, but I thought it was reassuring for people, especially like myself, who have been saying for a while that they could totally see Cyberpunk 2077 getting delayed once more. Moving on over to IGN, during a Polish language meeting with investors, Kaczynski was asked about the follow-on DLC for Cyberpunk 2077, which is set to be released on September 17th. The game, by the way it's worded sounds like it's the DLC. Kaczynski was asked how big the DLC will be and when they'll be announced. As translated by IGN Poland, Kaczynski revealed that the players can, quote, expect expansion size no less than The Witcher 3, end quote. Considering that the Blood and Wine and Heart of Stone DLC combined to be around 40 hours of extra content, give or take, is quite the bold statement. And indeed, because if it's as good as either of those, then people are in for, yet again, a big treat. Continuing on, as for when players can expect an announcement for the DLC, Kaczynski told investors to, quote, expect a similar scenario to what we had for The Witcher 3, end quote. CD Projekt Red famously announced both Witcher 3 expansions a week before the game's launch, meaning that CD Projekt Red could potentially announce DLC for Cyberpunk shortly before the game is released, which is the general expectation. Now this here is just kind of cool. It just shows that they like to have fun at CD Projekt Red. So you can see right here is Uniform Victor Mike Echo on the back of the Cyberpunk Xbox One. You can also see a little box around the letters UVME, UV me, and it turns out there is a hidden message on the Cyberpunk Xbox One. Quote, there is indeed a hidden message, but I think it's better than something for the ARG, end quote, explained Eversman 037, thanks to Video Games 24/7. It reads, quote, many languages, one message, quote, and thank you, I think, in 15 languages. I really like this personally. I think that's a nice touch. It adds a little bit of heart to a collector's item, which you don't see all that often. And so just a little thing there that people may or may not have been aware about. Now, the ratings made a lot of noise for Cyberpunk 2077. They dominated headlines, so this information may be a little bit more familiar for you. Players can select a gender and customize their character. Customization can include the depiction of breasts, buttocks, and genitalia, as well as various sizes and combinations of genitals. Whoa, boy. Players can encounter events where they have the option to engage in sexual activities with other main characters or prostitutes. These brief sex scenes from a first-person perspective depict partially nude characters moaning suggestively while moving through various positions. The ESRB rating also mentions one particularly gruesome scene from a quest that does not contain spoilers. During one quest, players assist a character by hammering nails through his hands and feet. Screaming sounds and blood effects accompany the scene. Yeah, so they're not really messing around with this game, which we'll hop back to that comment in a little bit, but they're treating it as M-rated as humanly possible and just pushing the boundaries wherever they go. Apparently, these scenes where there are sexual activities are also mocapped. So that's just another thing worth keeping in mind, that these are actual actors just doing things, man. Okay, but what about Stadia? You guys care about that, right? No, probably not really, but hey. Anyway, Cyberpunk will not be available on Stadia at launch. What's hilarious about this is that it will be available at launch on GeForce Now. So the Stadia fiasco continues as Google absolutely just drops the ball in an embarrassing fashion. So, as we can see here, back to the ratings, Cyberpunk 2077 was rated 18 plus in Brazil, to which Pal Sasko writes on Twitter, "Are you surprised we don't bleep around?" And so, yeah, they are taking it very seriously over there, it seems. Anyway, the last bit of information is a good one for consumers. If you are going to be owning an Xbox Series X, you plan on buying it day and date no matter what, do know that Cyberpunk has confirmed that gamers should never be forced to purchase the same game twice or pay for upgrades. Owners of Cyberpunk 2077 for Xbox One will receive the Series X upgrade for free when available. I think this is big because at least you know if you buy Cyberpunk for the Xbox right now, you know for a fact this will work on your Series X. That's not to say it won't on PlayStation, because PlayStation did release a statement saying after some point in July, every game that's released must work on PS5 as well out of the box. So that would put Cyberpunk in that group if it releases in September like it's supposed to, and any point afterwards it would still be in that group. So I don't believe this is an Xbox exclusive thing, but this is a confirmed Xbox exclusive thing, which is a pretty big difference maker. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is the 2020 edition of everything we know so far about Cyberpunk 2077. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you found it informative. Be sure to share it around, and I'll talk with you soon. Instead of promoting my usual social media, like I said, in the link in the description down below is a bunch of different charities and stuff that you guys can donate to and get involved with. I thought I'd just in this video here promote a really good cause. So I'll talk with you soon. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.